Oh, I think Kate, there we go. Hi, everyone. I'm just waiting for Kate to join us.
Hello,
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good at you.
Good, thanks. Please tell me your cats are going to join us today.
Well, I've got one on the end of the bed,
Okay,
and feeding time will happen probably during the course of the convo. So I'm sure
okay,
she realized the
okay.
light from my iPad is like lighting up my face here. Let me just move it.
No worries. So, I mean, we're just waiting for a few more people to join. I've been very excited for this conversation, so I'm really
Really?
looking forward to it. Um, uh, and I know that, I think right now we are sort of dealing with a lot, especially in this country and even around the world. And, it is difficult to see what's going on around us. And I thought that maybe something like this would be a little lighthearted, maybe to sort of take our mind off things, but also more to kind of focus on the things that we can control. And something like your CVs, and looking for a job is something that is in your power. So I think it's a really great topic, especially now as well.
I
But
agree.
yeah, I see Linda has joined. She says hello,
Hi.
superstars. Hello, Linda. I see Naima has joined as well. There's quite a few people. I'm really looking forward to this discussion, and I know a lot of people have told me that too. And Caitlin is, so let us start. So Caitlin is actually not new to this platform. She's been here before, and she spoke about recruitment agencies and sort of what we can expect from them and what they are, and all the ins and outs of that. And so she's no stranger, but for those that don't know her, Caitlin has been in the recruitment industry for more than 10 years. She's worked for one of the largest recruitment agencies in South Africa. She's managed teams. She's done so much. Um, and now she's a senior talent acquisition specialist as well. So she's really like the best person to speak to when it comes to CVs and recruitment as well. And she's very passionate about it, and you'll see it come through today. Cool. So,
Thanks.
Caitlin,
Give me an
awesome.
ego.
I see your sound is sort of going. I don't know if it's on my side, but your sound just sort of switches off. So I don't know if you want to move the phone or something.
I mean,
Um,
I think it might just be
okay.
a possibly a issue, but I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so we'll see how it goes, and please, people that are in the chat, please let us know if there are sound issues, and then maybe we can sort of start over and sort it out before. But okay, so let's cut to the chase, Caitlin. Can you give us some examples of the worst CVs you've ever seen?
I literally have so many examples that I had to break them up into like broad categories. Certainly in my time, you gave me slightly too much credit with how many years I've been in recruitment, coming on 8 years now. But
It's
in
okay.
years, I have certainly reviewed thousands upon thousands and thousands of CVs. And when you are working with that much volume, of course, you're going to come across some interesting ones. And I think the kind of broad category I'd like to address first is TMI. And this happens far more often than you would expect on a CV. But there is definitely a line between too much information and not enough information. But specifically on too much information, I think one of the bigger issues I've been seeing lately with CVs is just putting absolutely every little minute detail about yourself down. So, I mean, I've seen CVs where they go as far as putting their dad's name on the resume or the CV. And
The
that is,
father's name.
father's name. I'm
Is it
not.
like a notable father, the CEO of something, or?
No, I think maybe just proud of their father, which is great to do, but certainly not required on your CV. But even this day and age, things like putting your ID number, putting your place of birth, putting your
Place of birth, sorry.
yeah, place of
Place
birth.
of birth.
A bit
Oh,
cutty when we're talking nationality, but we do
okay.
know that you were born in X town on, at this time on this day. It's too much. And really, the real problem I have with it is less having to read it because, it doesn't bother me having to read it. But really, you're giving fraudsters a blueprint to scam you and to impersonate you. So I think now, this day and age, don't even put your ID number on your resume. If you get the process with the company and they require it, they will ask for it. But before they ask for it, you'll probably sign something that speaks to the Copy Act, is the hot topic at the moment, where they
Mhm.
protecting your information. But your resume can float around. You'd be surprised at how easy a doc. I mean, we've seen in the last few days how quickly videos spread around like wildfire. People can just
Mhm.
spread your CV around, and you don't want to give scammers a good opportunity to impersonate you. Um, some of the more interesting TMIs I've had as well is I realized they probably were using a template, which kind of leads to if you're going to use a template, I highly recommend using CV templates. Actually, Word has some of the best ones out
Mhm.
there, all free. But if you're going to use it, check it. So where there's the section for gender, some
Mhm.
uh, countries, and depending on where your template comes from, we'll call that sex instead of gender. And I had a CV once where but next to sex, instead of putting male, female, non-binary, they said the week. That
Are you for real?
once a week. So yeah, definitely don't be putting that level of detail into your CV. I see some of my ex-colleagues have joined. So if you guys have any doozies to share in the chat, please do. Pops will know this one, but because I had a very, very good hard laugh at this one in the office, but someone also once put marital status dating, which I personally found hilarious because when we're talking marital status, it's a categorization, right? So it's single, it's widowed, it's divorced, it's married.
Yes.
I don't need to know that you're dating someone and how long you've been dating for them. It's a professional document. I don't need that level of information.
So I'm sorry, but like I'm still at six once a week. So,
Actually,
like no ways,
I actually
no ways. There's no ways anyone would have thought that that's what. How is that gonna help you get the job?
I don't know. Maybe it was like a gym instructor. So that was a submission by one of my colleagues. Actually, I forgot to note it here. But maybe they were applying to um, a gym instructor job or something where your physical fitness was going to be assessed. I'm trying to give
But
them.
not in that way, unless I don't know, unless you are the lady of the night or something. I still don't see how that is relevant to the job
Leeway here.
either.
I'm trying
But
to give them leeway, figure out if there could be a valid reason for it. But yeah, I can't really think of a good reason to be disclosing that level of detail.
I mean, I don't think people disclose that level of detail to their families or friends. So why would you do that to the recruiter either? And are they like graduates? Are they students that are submitting this? Or
All sorts. I mean, I've seen like senior executive profiles make similar mistakes. People don't know what they don't know, and that's why you come and join a chat like this and you find out in a funny way.
yeah, well, that is definitely. I mean, I know that we said that we expect a few laughs, but I mean that is definitely, one of our motivations for having these kinds of discussions, trying to educate people on what should and should not be on your CV.
And
So
I've
are there any more?
oh yeah, I've got, so let's talk about my second category, which is the format and content of the CV. So I think one of my biggest bugbears when I get a resume is an entire front page dedicated to curriculum vitae of X person's name. No, I
Yeah.
don't. I won't get a visit from the cat now. He is trying to worm his way in. This is my kitty
This
cat.
is very true. Yeah, no, this is very, I'm a cat person, so please have them. Maybe they can also give us some interview tips, not interview tips, CV tips.
TV's with me, and they've through lockdown, they've been the colleagues that I've been laughing to in the people. So yeah, the entire first page as a header to say this is your CV. It's really not necessary. By virtue of the fact that you're applying, I know it's your CV. I don't need an entire page to tell me that. And then also kind of link it back to facts. So statistics show that recruiters will spend less than 10 seconds reviewing your CV. Now imagine if they've spent 3 seconds on scrolling through that first page. You've lost 3 seconds of their time. And frankly, you might have lost them completely, because that could be enough to put you in a reject pile for some recruiters. Another massive faux pas is the all capital letters. When I open a CV that's all caps, I literally feel like someone's shouting at me, and it hurts. And honestly, I can't read it. You can't read a document that's all caps. And it's the same with fonts, because fonts do matter, and Times New Roman is not it. If you just sat reviewing a document that's in a font like Times New Roman, you'd understand why it actually hurts your eyes after a while. These are minor faux pas, but it comes down to, yeah, go for it.
So I know that, maybe like, especially some of the students and the graduates might be thinking, but okay, fine, it's a font, but, my information is there. What's the big deal? But I think like your point around, what, we, like you say, we see thousands of CVs, and it's actually your and see somebody said Times New Romans is not it, but we see thousands of CVs, and the question of, but why should they care about like hurting the recruiter's eyes? It's very, maybe you can speak to this as well, but I also think that it's very easy to miss information when you're struggling to read the document. So the information might be there, but it's difficult to read.
Yeah.
And so you might just think that this person's not qualified for the role.
Really, what you want to do is give the recruiter every reason to keep looking at your resume. And if I'm sitting reviewing a batch of 100 to 200 CVs, my eyes do hurt, and I'm pretty blind as it is, but my eyes do hurt after that. And if I land on a CV and you're the 200th person I'm reviewing, and you're Times New Roman all caps, and you have a 10-page document,
and once a week. Sorry, I just can't get over that one.
A week. But the reality is, I'm just not going to put the care and attention into reviewing your profile as I would a more easily readable profile. And it's your job as the job seeker to make it as easy as possible for the decision makers to say yes to you. Don't give them small reasons to say no, because you can imagine, with 200 CVs, I've got to have disqualifying criteria. So you might all have the same education and the same level of experience. What's going to differentiate you then? I can't interview 200 people. I would never get through. So there's got to be the things that make you stand out, and then also at the same time that don't instantly eliminate you. Another kind of bugbear of mine at the moment, and I feel like there maybe was a time and place for it, but not in 2021, is these buzzwords like someone putting, oh, I'm diligent, or I'm hardworking, or I'm punctual on your CV. You're wasting advertising space, because that's just words. Every single person puts the same words on their resume. When I see that, I just I scroll right on past because it doesn't mean anything. Anyone can put those words down, but it doesn't actually have any meaning. So I think we need to move away from those types of things and move. And I'll offer an alternative that I really appreciate. So instead of I'm punctual and hardworking and these like soft words that don't really have much meaning unless it's demonstrable, rather put a skills matrix and quantitatively like clarify where you sit on that matrix. So and you guys, if you're grads and you don't yet have a lot of hard skills, look at other skills like Excel, look at skills like, or even go do some courses on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a lot of free courses at the moment that you can then add to your skills matrix and quantify it by putting like a bar or some kind of graphic that shows where you sit on the scale of that skill. That's so much more valuable than a buzzword like punctual. Yeah, it's just, there's no place for it anymore.
Yeah, and I can sort of, and I understand, especially if you are in the working world already and you know you've already developed some skills, and so you've touched on the fact that with graduates specifically as well, it can be a little more tough for them because they don't have the working experience yet. And I do think that in that, you know, so then they sort of do rely on those softer skills. But like you said, like I think you make a valid point that there's so many, like you said, LinkedIn, but there are so many other sort of places on the internet that where you can learn different types of skills as well, and then use those skills to put on your CV.
What I'll do
obviously
in the chat, Lubs, I'll drop a link. LinkedIn at the start of lockdown launched and they really didn't do a huge amount of marketing around it or much visibility around it, but I always share it when I can. They created what's called free learning pass. So they analyze the data that they pull from their LinkedIn job portals to find the most in-demand skill sets of 2020. And then they created free learning pass around that. So a learning path would be all the courses that you need to obtain to qualify, or not qualify necessarily because that's obviously not formal education, but to skills needed for a certain job type. Like they've got data analysis, sales, they've got digital marketing, and you can actually go and complete all those courses for free, get all the certificates for free. So I'm going to link it in the chat afterwards. So if anyone wants to check out the free learning pass, I've already started the software development just because I recruit in the space and I'd like to understand a little bit more about that.
Well, that's incredible. I mean, like you said, it's not actually well marketed as well. So that's really great. And I think a lot of people will be able to, you know, like you said, even you are learning from that and using it in your own job. So a lot of people will be able to benefit. So definitely would really appreciate that link as well. I think I saw a comment from, it says, Popsy, dude. And she says, stay away from using generic skills like hard working. She definitely agrees with that, and with doing LinkedIn short courses to add to your skills. So that's great. Awesome.
Thank you. Your girl representing. Popsy is a fellow recruitment and HR professional, so we definitely take it for it. So we can kind of wind down the terrible CV section by my last two examples.
Okay.
Fantastic. I say the funniest for last. So this happened in my previous company where I was reviewing a CV, and sometimes I'll look at like the hobbies and interests. Not always, depends on how much time I have and the type of role that I'm recruiting for. And this is where the kind of point of this attention to detail. So instead of saying cooking, they misplaced second O with the C. So under hobbies, it said cocking. I laughed so hard in my life. And that one missed letter can completely change something. I obviously realized I assume they made a mistake. Maybe they didn't.
Well, I don't know. After the examples you've given me, I'm not 100% sure if it was a mistake or not.
Very possible they were just letting me know that that's what they're into. But Spell check, like fine tooth comb, because you will be judged on those things. Particularly
Yeah.
looking at entry level roles where the competition is pretty fierce, it will
Yes.
come down to the small things like attention to detail. And with that comes checking your attachments. So whatever you attach
Yes.
to your application, make sure you check it. I had a fellow recruiter link me a little blurb about an experience she had with an attention to detail and attachment. And instead of attaching the CV, so random, the person attached a picture of the inside of a bag of gummy worms.
A bag of gummy worms. That is,
Why?
I don't have words.
Secondly, why are you downloading that picture? And the most important, why are you sending it instead of a CV?
So I take it that person didn't get interviewed.
No, I mean, the gummy worms do not qualify you for the job. I'm so sorry. And I've had that happen, quite a lot, where people will apply, and some of my ex-colleagues who are on the stream at the moment can attest to probably one of the things that frustrated us the absolute most was people applying to jobs, and it'll be via a portal, so you get it as a, like, it's doing it on the system, and they don't put their phone number or email address on the CV, and you're wondering, do I carry a pigeon you? How am I meant to get hold of you? And you really want to call the person, but you don't have the time to go be Detective Nancy now and go hunt them down. Although I could if I needed to. But when you're applying, guys, just put your email address and your mobile number on the resume so that we know how to contact you. It's really that simple.
But I also feel like it's not your job as a recruiter, especially if you're like going through 200 CVs a day. Why would you start running after somebody else for their contact details?
It
Do you know?
how good the profile is. I've I have gone and hunted down people if they've got a really great profile. But the very first thing I'll tell them when I get on the phone to them is, please can you put your cell phone number on your CV so that I can get hold of you? So I'll always let them know. I'll always point out the mistakes, but I'll always back it up with the, like, here's what you can change to kind of fix it.
Okay, so that actually leads me to my second question about this, right? So, do you actually, for example, that person that wrote once a week, do you actually tell people, or do recruiters generally tell candidates, wow, this resume is really bad, or this is the reason why this is bad?
If I'm feeling generous, the honest answer, I mean, it really comes down to how busy am I? What mood am I in? Do I have the brain capacity to pick up the phone and call someone that's not going to be taken forward in the role and let them know? Depends on how many I'm dealing with at the time. But yes, there's certainly, and I definitely tend to do it more with grads than anyone else, because I think grads deserve that. But no, I won't always call someone and tell them what's wrong with their CV unless I'm calling them to actually discuss the role. Then I'll do it as like an FYI. But 90% of the time, you don't have the time. If the CV is wrong, you have to reject and move on. Otherwise, you'll never
Yeah.
get to the people who are right.
Yeah, I see that. And I think that's especially important for graduates to know that as well. That, you kind of need to take your job search into your own hands.
Oh,
Like you said, there's so many jobs or so many people competing for the same jobs out there that something like that really can sort of put you at the bottom of the pile
yeah, it's too
as
competitive
well.
right now to make those kind of mistakes, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I mean, you see, I talk a lot about students as well, but I mean, even with other working people, sort of what I found as well within recruitment, that the way you interact or deal with a recruiter or even a company makes a huge difference to whether you're considered
Yeah.
for a role or not. So how do you think, or in your opinion, like how should job seekers approach recruiters or companies when they're looking for a role?
Yeah, let me preface this by saying there's no one size fits all, because
Mm-hmm.
some people in HR and recruitment don't want to be called, some don't mind it.
Mm-hmm.
Personally,
Mm-hmm.
I think it humanizes people. So it takes you
Mm-hmm.
from a piece of paper in front of my screen to an actual living, breathing person, and instantly
Okay.
makes me more empathetic, more willing to listen. So I do appreciate people following up an application with the call. But that said, if all 200 people who applied followed up with a call, I'd be I'd be a little overwhelmed. So I think it comes down to if you meet the criteria of the job and you're calling and following up and really just want to have a discussion about your application, I love that. I'm always open to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a great way to get to know someone and have them be proactive. But if you are a receptionist and you're applying for an engineer job and you're calling into HR to ask about your application, you're probably more of a nuisance than anything else. And then, and I mean that as kindly as possible, but it's just the truth because it happens. I mean, I did engineering recruitment for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wild how many receptionist CVs I received in that time. But there's a difference between like a slight reach and you're not meeting all the criteria for a job, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm looking for an engineer and you're not an engineer. There's certain roles and and careers that require a certain degree of education in order to do the role, like
Mm-hmm.
accountants, like doctors, nurses, you
Yeah.
be qualified to do these jobs. So really it's just a balance. I think if you meet the majority of the criteria and you really want to stand out and follow up on your application, call. Um, and there's kind of tactics you can do around how to find the people that you want to speak to. I always go to LinkedIn and I just pop in HR or recruiter or talent
Mm-hmm.
acquisition, and I filter it by people, and then I go into
Mm-hmm.
the company filter. I put the company name. Boom, you've got all the details of the HR department of that company. Reach out to them
Oh, wow.
or call the switchboard and ask to speak to them. It takes guts to do that, but dependent on the role, like in a sales role, if someone did that, that would make you really stand out as a salesperson. It means you can do a
Mm-hmm.
cold call successfully. So it's contextual. There's no right or wrong answers. Follow.
Yeah, because I was also thinking that, maybe in that situation, it's a good idea. You're showing your skills, you're showing the fact that you're confident and you can do cold calling. But I must say though that it can be very, like, personally, it can be very distracting when you get these kinds of calls and you're not even in the recruitment department. Like, so for very large companies, for example, you know contacting the HR person in payroll who does not have any line of sight with recruitment, you're just basically sort of disturbing them during their working day as well. So
Yeah,
I also think that it's dependent, and I think that it is taking a chance as well, but it can also backfire or it can work well.
yeah, and that's why I say it's contextual, right? There's
Yeah.
but with that whole like speaking to the wrong HR person, that's going to happen. Even if you do it the best way, it's going to happen. But sometimes I think that comes down to the culture in the company as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I wrote about it in my employee blog recently,
Mm-hmm.
where I spoke about how, regardless of what function you play in a company, you're an ambassador for job seekers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
if someone 9 times out of 10, I think if you end up calling the wrong person, they generally will be gracious and say, here's the right person. But you might catch them on a bad day. People are human. You might catch them in the middle of like if they're payroll, in the middle of doing payroll at the end of the month. And then
Mm-hmm.
absolutely you're not wanting to take a call about recruitment that you have nothing to do with.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Mm-hmm.
it's contextual, and it comes down to how companies decide to handle these things internally. There's even like people in HR who specifically look after recruitment who'll get peed off if you try to call them, which personally I struggle with, because I think a recruiter personality inherently, you're a people person. So I struggle to understand recruiters who don't want to speak to candidates. But weird to me, their own, and you never know who you're going to get on the other end of the line. Just be respectful.
Yeah.
Ask if it's a good
Yeah.
time to talk.
I think that is key. That's definitely key. So tell me something. Are there any sort of more tips that you can give around ways to approach the company or recruiters?
Yeah, I think good summation that we did there. If you're too nervous to make the call, which is totally understandable. Again, it takes guts to do it. Not everyone can do it. Then you could drop them an email, either message them on LinkedIn, although not everyone's super active on LinkedIn. But again, you can call the switchboard. As long as you've got a name, you can call the switchboard and ask for an email address. And just do a gentle introduction. Don't make it paragraphs on paragraphs on paragraphs. Don't make it a complete summary of your CV that they could just read. Make it short, punchy. It shouldn't be more than like 3 or 4 lines, and finish it off with a call to action. So you always want to end it with a call to action. So is there anything I can do to help you review my resume or my candidacy for this position? When would be a good time to chat? Always like end it with because if you don't end it with a call to action, that person can basically ignore the mail if they want to. If you
Of course.
direct question, it's a little less professional to ignore the mail.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So do you have any stories then of ways that people have approached you? Job seekers have approached you, like bad examples.
I mean, absolutely. There's bad examples. There's a fine line between wanting to get a job and make a good impression and then truly becoming a nuisance. I've over the years I've had, particularly because my cell phone number, my own private cell phone number, used to be on my signature, which, if I'm honest, I didn't really like, purely for this reason that I'm going to go into. But you have to have boundaries. So people would breach those boundaries by calling me early hours of the morning, messaging me on Saturdays, demanding my attention outside of work hours. And that's inappropriate. We've got to respect that people need work-life balance. And I think if you're doing anything in the professional context, i.e. work, looking for a job, we're all in the professional realm. Adhere to business hours. Don't breach business hours. It's not fair on the other person to have their work encroach their personal time. And it also just makes you look really bad and probably alienates you from the person. So definitely no weekends and no after hours.
So you mentioned that you got called in the early hours of the morning. Like, do you mean like after 12 o'clock at night?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've had candidates almost like aggressively stalk me to get answers out of me or to follow up on applications. And I had one candidate that just repeatedly called me at it was just the one night, but repeatedly in one night from about 1 o'clock, just call after call after call. And I would literally hang up the calls and message and be like, who is this? What do you want? And they'd be like, oh, I applied to this vacancy. Chat. Are you crazy? No. How
So
I think that's appropriate.
1 o'clock in the morning to ask how far their job application has been.
I will cop to that. Role reversal. I've done that to a candidate before.
Okay, but okay, that's
very good reason. Listen, it was a long, hard placement, months and months of process, and the person didn't show up to the job on the first day. They just went completely AWOL, wouldn't answer my calls, nothing, couldn't get hold of them. So I called them off private number at early hours of the morning, and they actually answered. And I was like, oh, so,
Oh, wow.
but I was very green. Let me preface it and say I was very green. I was still new in my career, and I was very angry. I was very upset. Guys, don't ever not rock up to work on your first day. Like, a horrible thing to do.
But did they end up showing up afterwards, or did they
They
just not pitch up?
yeah, they'd accepted another offer, and they just didn't have the guts to inform us that they weren't going to be starting anymore.
That is really, yeah, that does not leave a very good impression.
I
And
think
I,
every recruiter has a story. We call them non-starters. There's like a whole,
not
they
exactly.
literally had a system like tag to put on someone when they didn't start.
So you're saying that they would then be flagged. So for future positions, you'd know that these people
The non-starter,
might just don't show up.
not going to waste your time with that. Like if someone
Yeah,
something that badly in the process, I mean, there's other unforgivable sins in the process, right? I see Chappie gave a good one. Rocking up late. One thing to rock up late and apologize and explain. Another thing to rock up late
that's my pet
and
peeve.
acknowledge it. Um, Taking a counter offer without letting anyone know. You know, taking a counter offer happens. It's okay. I don't judge people who take
Yeah,
offers as long as they're doing it for the right reason, but communicate it. Candidates
yes.
don't show up on their first day. Yeah, there's lots of unforgivable sins that can blacklist you.
So I must admit, like, it does peeve me off when candidates are late. Like it's really I need to actually remind myself that it mustn't actually sort of, you know, deter or actually have an impact on how I see them in the interview. But I must say that if they come and they say, and it has happened before, where, because I mean, to go for an interview, you don't, even when you are the interviewer, you don't just, you see, okay, now it's 12:59. Now you get up and you go for the interview. Like, you get up, you make sure that you're there before the time, you make sure that, your documents are printed out or you have your laptop there. So it's a whole process to get ready for this person. And if they just don't rock up, and I've also had people where they don't apologize. They don't even acknowledge that they were
Yeah,
late.
that's an issue. You know, it can happen because it can happen to anyone, but acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
and apologize. I see we've got a comment here, and this is brilliant because I've had similar scenarios where Pop said I've had a parent follow up on a job application on behalf of her son.
Opinion.
Wrong. She called me at 11 p.m. Don't mess with my sleep, yo. Guys, you'd be surprised as to how common it is to, particularly when dealing with grads, have the parents basically run the show and the process. I mean, we once had a candidate who was in our financial markets division, declined an offer.
Uh-huh.
His parents said, no, you can't accept that offer, even though he wanted the job. I mean, I have, and I mean, this, I find it like funny, but I can understand why it happens. But lots of times, wives running the process, doing everything for their husbands.
Oh,
Um,
really?
but that was more common in like the mining type roles that I did, where the husbands are on the
Okay.
mining day. So if they want to find a job, really only they have their wife to kind of
Mm.
do that heavy lifting for them. But I always get a good giggle out of the parents managing process on behalf of the child. That's a little bit of a red flag to me.
I was actually thinking the same thing. It's like, okay, so say for example, you employ the child and now they're not doing well. And what are they going to go to their mommies and say, are they going to send their mommies after you? Like, it doesn't make sense to me to get your parents involved. Yeah, I mean, and even in terms of showing, like, taking initiative, making your own decisions. It sort of, yeah, it shows the opposite, you know. But yeah, wow. Okay. So I'm a little mind blown with some of the stories here. But okay. So we've spoken about sort of, bad CVs, right? So let's switch it around. Like, what makes a good CV?
Good question. And again, preface by saying that this is a personal preference. You could ask 10 recruiters and they'd probably give you 10 answers. I personally like a CV with a little bit of color. When it's just the black on the white, the color makes you stand out. It's memorable. I personally don't like photos on resumes. Even though,
Why is that?
well, I think it creates an unconscious bias in the whether a good bias or a bad bias, you never know what you're going to get. But it does give the people the opportunity to have an unconscious bias about you. I mean, that said, my CV that I used to get my current job has my picture on it. But that was well over a year ago. And I've kind of I used to have the opposite opinion. I liked a picture. But now I've started slowly realizing what biases it creates in me. And now I prefer not to have a knee-jerk reaction. I don't like anything over 2 pages. That's overkill. I do think that a creative use of space, you've almost got to see your resume as like an advert where you're paying per word, and that you've got to maximize your you've got to maximize your what is the word, your retail. There's a certain word for it, but you've got to maximize the space that you have. And I think creative editing and formatting can really help with that. Again, Word has some templates. Seeing some comments here about
the photo. Yes.
Certainly seen some very interesting pictures. 9 times out of 10, it really just gives everyone a laugh. A lot of the time it can be used against you. Don't put weird pictures on your CVs, guys.
Yeah. Linda just mentioned something now about your wedding picture with your husband cut off.
Yeah, no.
I won't lie, I actually enjoy those pictures.
Yeah.
I like looking at wedding pictures. So I would look at them.
There was this one guy who applied to like every single job opening we ever had in our division. Never forget. I know his name. I obviously won't. I still remember his name. But his picture was this like white backdrop, so professionally done, but him like leaning his elbow on his knee. And it was just the most awkward, funny picture I've ever seen. And I'll never, ever forget it. Like his picture literally pops into my mind now, and it was just, frankly, quite cringe.
So I've actually seen a worse one than that, to be honest. Like, I once saw a CV, and it was I think it was a junior role, and it was this girl, and she literally had like a tank top on, and it was like a selfie, and you could see that she was on her bed, and that was her CV photo. Like literally like this, like, like out of bed look, basically, as a CV photo.
Yeah.
My jaw dropped.
Rather not. Really rather not.
Yeah.
And when they make it like that whole I spoke about that like whole cover page where it's curriculum vitae, and the real dude, let's go curriculum vitae, and then like an A4 sized picture of your face.
Yeah, on a normal printout document, no.
Yeah,
it doesn't. Yeah,
very awkward.
Cool.
But you give us
okay. Yeah, but like you mentioned before, you say that it's also very subjective, right? With what makes a good CV. For me, but maybe it's just I like detail, right? And what I've also found sometimes is that I would rather actually have somebody go over to 3 or even 4 pages, but then they actually have some of the experience that I'm looking for. as opposed to somebody trying to summarize the information in 2 pages, but then I'm not seeing all of the stuff. And then, so for me, it's like, okay, you've got like 40% of what we're looking for. So I think it can, I mean, I'm just sort of giving a different opinion. Like you said, that, it can be subjective.
Yeah, but it's also contextual. If you've got a 2-year career and you've got a 4-page CV, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
If you've got a 20-year career and you've got a 4-page CV, fair enough. It's balance.
Yeah. I just also, just because I always get this question a lot, and I sort of just want to also, because I think what some people then interpret from that is, okay, don't put just summarize the information, and sometimes at the expense.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
The delay. Apologies.
Yeah. No, I said no. It's fine. Yeah, I think there's slight lag, and I see the sound as well. So I'll just monitor that. Okay, cool. So we've spoken about good CVs, and so it's true that recruiters just throw CVs away into a rejection pile. Like, do they do that? And do they? Is it true that they don't look at every single CV that comes through to them?
Again, contextual. I do look at every single CV, but I also put pre-qualifying questions into my screening. Like, so when you apply, because I've got a lot more control because I can work in the back end of our system now. So when you apply, I put some pre-qualifying questions in. So for example, I recently advertised a 6-month fixed term contract. And one of the pre-qualifying questions that I put in was, are you available immediately? Because I'm not going to take a permanent person in a permanent job out of that job into a fixed term job. And a lot of people don't know what FTC means. And wildly, this was an HR role I was advertising, so an HR person should know what FTC is, but a lot of the people that applied didn't know what FTC was. And then they'll put availability immediate, and then you call them. I actually didn't do the calls. One of my colleagues did the calls, and she kind of told me some of the stories from it, and I was just shocked that HR people were like, oh, it's a contract. Oh no, I'm in a permanent role. Sorry, I'm not interested then. And just frustrating, already so limited on time. So sometimes pre-qualifier questions can really help weed out the people who are just, because you do get people who just frivolously apply. They don't read the advert. They don't look at the role properly. They just apply. And I've got to weed through that stuff. But I still look at the CV, but I can tell pretty quickly if it's right or wrong. But to kind of loop a rejection pile, yes, absolutely, there's a rejection pile. On average for a role, I get 200 to 300 applications, and there's only one position to fill. That means 299 people need to be rejected, and it's not viable to call back. I'm only calling you back if you meet the criteria of the role, because otherwise I'm taking away an opportunity from someone who does meet the criteria. Does that make sense?
It does, but now I'm thinking now, in your opinion, so should candidates, if they see a job being advertised, right, and they don't meet 100% of the criteria, they maybe meet 80%, does that mean that they should not apply for the job?
No. My kind of rule of thumb has always been like 70 to 80%. And also your critical thinking, right? There might be a job advertised for an HR administrator, and you've got a degree in, I don't know, what's a good example? Finance. You might meet all the other criteria in terms of years of experience, in terms of the soft skills, but at the end of the day, an HR role will require an HR qualification, because we're dealing with law and legality, and you have to have that knowledge. So use your use your discretion, use your critical thinking. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, I'm a big believer in you don't have to meet all the criteria. If I didn't apply to the job I'm in now, I didn't meet all the
Mm-hmm.
criteria for the job I'm in now. And I've
Okay. And you
but
still got it.
my lateral thinking, and I was like, I don't meet everything, but I've been doing this job for a long time and I know that I can do this job. So where
Mm-hmm.
someone who comes from a payroll, for example, place of
Mm-hmm.
HR, and you apply to a recruitment job, you're not going to get a call back because you don't have that specialist skill that's being looked for. But yes, if the advert says 10 years of experience and you have 8 years of experience, absolutely apply.
Okay, so that is very useful for people to know. I actually think I read a statistic somewhere that said that men are more likely to apply for roles, even if they only meet like 60% of the criteria, whereas a lot of women would want to at least make sure that they either meet like 90 to 100% of the criteria before they apply.
Yeah,
And
right.
also what happens is sometimes those men actually get into the roles they want to as well. So it's quite interesting. I think I do think that it's quite important to like really think about uh, uh, or think about the approach when it comes to applying for jobs.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might be depriving yourself of an opportunity where they might actually consider you, but you are telling yourself that, you know what, I don't feel qualified enough for this role.
No, I hear that. Um, Again, it comes down to a balancing act.
Mm-hmm.
There's some immediately obvious, I'm a receptionist and I shouldn't be applying for an engineer job because, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a great example. It's kind of a sexist example, actually. Probably not the
Mm-hmm.
best. But just to illustrate, like, if you have got it coming from an administrative background, you're applying to an engineer job without engineering qualification. I think that's kind of,
Mm-hmm.
yes, we can all agree
Yes.
no
Mm-hmm.
amount of soft skills or luck is going to get you that job, right? But then
Mm-hmm.
there's other professions where it's a little bit more intangible, where you don't necessarily have to have the hard skill that the soft skills can
Mm-hmm.
carry, or your skills are translatable or convertible to the new skill set. Um,
Mm.
there's some unavoidable truth, and that is, certain roles you have to be qualified for, unfortunately.
I see.
I will say,
Caitlin, I really,
sorry, Dubs.
sorry, you were saying?
Recruitment doesn't require any qualifications. So that is the kind of job that absolutely, if you see it advertised, I say take your shot. We we look for personality in recruitment, less.
Oh,
I mean, it helps to have a qualification, right? But it's certainly
yeah.
not all and end all. There's certain professions like that. I'm just putting that out there because I think the world needs more recruiters.
Well, that's good to know, especially for graduates that are unemployed and sort of looking for a start. That's great. Caitlin, so we've got like a few minutes left. So I want to see if anyone on the call has any questions for Caitlin. Otherwise, Caitlin, are there any sort of wait,
Yeah, I see
oh,
one.
there's one. Can you be overqualified for a job? That's a
Um,
good one.
again, contextual. So, I mean, I'm advertising a finance intern role at the moment, and a FD, a financial director, applied to it. Yes,
Mhm.
you're overqualified. No, I consider you, because if I did,
Mhm.
I'd be taking away an opportunity from a graduate. So in that kind of context, yes, you could be overqualified for a job, but 99% of the time my answer would be no. It's not up to a company to say you're overqualified. It's up to you to decide if you're willing to take that step down. So no, I don't think you can be overqualified for a job. Far from the example that I just gave, there's some certain exclusions to that rule. But if you are applying, say you're in a manager role and you're applying
Mhm.
for a specialist role, so it's some people would see it as taking a step down. And some people might say, oh, but you're overqualified and you'll get bored. I don't think the company can decide that. They're allowed to be concerned and question it, but they don't get to make that decision for you. You're the one that decides, I'm okay with taking the step down and taking a lower position. The company should just be getting more bang for their buck.
Yeah. Well, I have to say though that I had a different experience. So I remember as a graduate, so I had an honors degree, and I was literally told in an interview that you're overqualified.
So that doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it right.
Yeah. So I do feel like our graduates, there is sort of, I mean, I don't think companies should be doing that, but I do think that it can happen.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure it happens. I will say that I do think 90% of the time, where not always, and this is just my opinion, but 90% of the time when someone's saying you're overqualified, it's just an easier way to let you down. But there's probably another reason that you're not being, probably another reason that you're being rejected. But it's almost seen as kinder to say you're overqualified. I'm a believer in just, unless what your reason for declining is discriminatory, which it shouldn't be, there's not, they should give honest feedback to candidates.
Yeah. Okay, so I can see Instagram's going to be cutting us off soon. So I see this. I'm going to take one more question and then ask you, any final thoughts. So Fatima says she's left HR to do teaching. Is there any chance of her getting back into HR, or is it too late?
No, it's
what
never.
Are your thoughts?
No, it's never too late. I think even if you were 60 and not having been doing it the last 40 years, it is never too late. It really comes down to your willpower. What I'd recommend for you, Fatima, and frankly, teaching is such a great transferable skill to move back into HR. It's not like you've been off working on rigs, not working with people. You're still doing something transferable. But I'd recommend a refresher course on labor law. And then putting that on your CV, an updated refresher course, putting together really good motivation on the top of your CV to explain why you want to make the career change and why you think it's good for you, and then get out there and apply for those roles.
Okay, so that is great. So and at least that it's not too late, that there is still a chance.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Any closing thoughts, comments on your end?
No, I think last thing I'd say is that your CV is the one thing that's going to go out there and represent you when you can't. So get it right. Make sure that you spell check it, have someone else review it for you to get a second pair of eyes on it, and just pay attention to detail, because it's the small things that count.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great advice. Thank you so much for your time. And for the people that were on the call, thank you for your comments and your questions. I really appreciate it. I also saw very early on, I think it was one of your ex-colleagues mentioning that they also enjoyed Udemy as well for learning new skills. And I know Caitlin said you'll provide that link where we can share it with everyone as well, from LinkedIn. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Caitlin, for your time. I really enjoyed our conversation, especially when your cat came in and also wanted to be interviewed. But I really enjoyed this, and you have a lovely evening.
You too. Thanks, loves. Bye.
Bye, everyone. See you.